There is a man in his garage right now. It's Saturday morning. His lawnmower stopped working 3 weeks ago. A brand new one costs just $60 at the hardware store. But instead of replacing it, he's spent the last 4 Saturdays taking this one apart. His knuckles are scraped. There's grease under his fingernails that won't fully wash out. His wife has gently suggested, twice, that maybe they should just buy a new one. He heard her. He's not replacing the lawnmower. And this isn't stubbornness, not exactly. There's something else operating underneath it, something older, quieter, and far more psychologically interesting than simple resistance to change. To understand people who fix rather than replace, you have to go back further than the individual. You have to go back to the world they were born into, or the world their parents were born into and never fully left. The generation that first hardwired this behavior lived through the Great Depression, and then immediately through a world war. These weren't abstract historical events. They were daily life. Bread lines, ration books, shoes resold 4 times before being discarded. Children who grew up in that era didn't just learn thrift. They learned something deeper. That objects were not disposable. That resources could disappear. And that when something broke, the correct response was not to throw it away, but to understand it and bring it back. That lesson didn't stay in the 1930s. It was passed down, quietly, through kitchens and garages, through the way a father handed a wrench to his son without saying much. The next generation grew up in a world of abundance, post-war prosperity, new cars, new appliances, televisions arriving in living rooms for the first time. But the emotional programming didn't update. It stayed, like a dialect that never quite disappears. Psychology has a name for part of this, the endowment effect. Once something belongs to you, especially if you've invested time, effort, or memory into it, it becomes more valuable to you than its market price. A repaired lamp is not the same as a new lamp. The repaired one has a story. The new one is just an object. But here's what most people get wrong. They assume the person repairing something is trying to save money. Sometimes that's true, but often it's not the real reason. Because the act of repair isn't really about the object. It's about the person. Repair is about competence. It's about agency. It's about understanding how something works and having the power to restore it. Think about life in the late 1950s. Identical suburban houses, long commutes, work becoming more abstract, paperwork, numbers, tasks with no visible outcome. A man could spend 8 hours in a fluorescent-lit office, then come home and spend 90 minutes fixing a pipe. And at the end of those 90 minutes, the water runs again. He did that. That result is visible, real. This is what psychologists now call self-efficacy, the feeling that your actions actually produce outcomes in the world. And when that feeling is missing, people go looking for it. Repair is one of the oldest ways to get it back. This is also why the behavior intensifies under stress. When someone feels uncertain about money, work, or life, they often become even more determined to fix things. Because they may not be able to control their job or the economy, but they can take apart a machine piece by piece and make it work again. There's another layer here that almost never gets discussed. Repair is also a form of loyalty. It reflects a belief about what things mean. People who fix things often apply that same mindset to relationships. They're the ones who stay, who try again, who return to difficult conversations 3, 4, 5 times. Not because they can't walk away, but because to them, walking away is the last option. The thing is broken, so you figure out why, and you fix it. This can be a powerful strength, but it can also become a trap, because not everything broken should be repaired. Some systems aren't worth saving. Some relationships can't be restored. And yes, Some lawnmowers should just be replaced. But people with this mindset often can't reach that conclusion until they've tried everything, sometimes long past the point where others would have let go. And this mindset didn't disappear, it evolved. Millennials, for example, especially those who lived through the 2008 financial crisis, developed their own version of it. Not always in garages, but in refurbished furniture, repaired electronics, mended clothes, revived houseplants. The objects changed, but the emotional logic stayed the same. Meanwhile, consumer culture moved in the opposite direction. From the 1960s onward, industries began designing products to fail. Planned obsolescence. Advertising reframed repair as something embarrassing. Old things meant you were falling behind. New things meant success. Some people absorbed that message completely. Others rejected it, consciously or not, and they kept showing up in garages on Saturday mornings. Today, that tension still exists. You see it in hardware stores, in repair cafes, in YouTube tutorials watched by people determined to fix something before buying a replacement. The modern repair movement isn't just about sustainability, it's something deeper. It's a quiet rebellion against the idea that replacing is always progress. At its core, the psychology of fixing rather than replacing isn't backward, it isn't irrational, it's about meaning. It's the belief, often unconscious, that the history inside an object, the time, the effort, the memory, is not something you can buy. That belief was forged in hardship, passed down through generations, and rooted in something simple, that resources are finite, that effort matters, and that restoring something broken is a form of dignity. So the man in the garage? He's not just refusing to buy a new lawnmower, he's refusing to believe that what he has isn't worth saving. And maybe the real question isn't whether that belief is practical. Maybe the real question is this: what do you choose to fix, and what do you choose to replace? Because that choice says more about you than you might think.